So in my previous video, where I talked about One Piece being too long, one of the things I brought up was the fact that despite being over 1000 chapters long, there is still a lot of plot lines to go through before One Piece reaches its conclusion. So I thought it would be fun to actually explore every plot line that still needs to be resolved before One Piece ends. And if you guys want to see more One Piece content, please subscribe for more. And without further ado, let's get started. So the first plot point that needs to be resolved is the whole story about Mad Monk Urouge. Out of all of the 12 supernovas so far, Urouge is the only pirate we still haven't seen much of. We have seen glimpses of him when he fought against Kizaru, and we heard about how he took down one of the Sweet Generals. But Urouge still hasn't played any major role in the story thus far, so we do need to learn more about him before the series ends. The next unsolved plot point is Sanji finding the All Blue. The All Blue's existence has been questioned by many chefs, but Sanji and Zeph were the only ones who actually believe that the All Blue exists. To find the All Blue has been Sanji's dream ever since he was a child, and we as fans need to see it for ourselves by the end of the story. There has been some theories about the All Blue, like how the All Blue used to exist, but then it was divided by the Red Line. But we will have to wait and see. Next is the whole plot point about finding the man with the burnt scar. We first hear about this individual at the end of the Wano arc, where Captain Kidd was talking about finding the man with the burnt scar. We learn more about this man when Luffy explains that the man can be found on the ship, and anyone who tries to go near him will be swallowed by giant whirlpools. Eventually, we will have to see who this man is with the burnt scar, because he has a road poneglyph, which is essential in reaching the island of Rough Tail to get to the One Piece. The Straw Hats already have 3 prints of the road poneglyphs, so the 4th and final road poneglyph they need is going to be from the man with the burnt scar. Another plot line that needs to be resolved is the inevitable rematch between Zoro and Mihawk. This has been one of the most anticipated fights in the entire One Piece series. After seeing Mihawk just curb stomp Zoro at Baratie, Zoro promising that he will never lose again, and even training under Mihawk for the 2-year time skip so he could be strong enough to defeat him, just builds up more excitement for this fight. Zoro's dream and ambition is to be the world's greatest swordsman, and this can only be achieved once he takes down Mihawk, who is currently the world's strongest swordsman. Another unsolved plotline is Brook meeting up with Laboon once the Straw has returned to Reverse Mountain. This has been built up since the Reverse Mountain arc, where Luffy promised to Laboon that they will return to him after they sail through the Grand Line. And now we find out that Brook was one of those pirates who befriended Laboon 50 years ago, so he has made it his goal to meet up with him and fulfill their promise. This is most likely going to happen at the very end of the series, because they are currently in the New World, so they will have to cross through the Red Line to reach Reverse Mountain again. So I can see this emotional reunion happening at the end of Luffy's journey. The next unsolved plot point is Luffy finally meeting up with his father, Monkey D. Dragon. Luffy first heard about his father at the end of Enies Lobby from his grandfather Garp, and to this day, Luffy still hasn't met him yet. In fact, we still don't really know much about Dragon either. In some of his scenes, we have seen him send gusts of wind, which could imply that he does have a Devil Fruit ability that is related to wind or even the weather, but we still don't have a full explanation yet. But what we do know is that he used to work for the world government, and he was actually a part of the God Valley incident, which is what made him want to rebel against the world government and start up the revolutionaries. But we still don't know the full relationship between him and his father Garp, and we don't even know anything about Luffy's mom or even Luffy's birth. There is still a lot of mystery regarding Luffy's family, and all of this needs to be addressed, maybe through a flashback that focuses on Garp, Dragon, and Luffy's mom. Another plotline that needs to be solved is what is going to happen with Law and Captain Kidd. The last time we saw them was in the Egghead arc, where Law lost his fight against Blackbeard, losing his crew and his ship in the process. And with Captain Kidd, he also lost against Shanks when he tried to attack him on Elbaf. And then Dory and Broggy dealt the finishing blow to their ship, and the Kidd pirates were destroyed. I don't think this will be the last time we see of Law and Kidd in this story, because they didn't die, so I think there will come a point to where they will be recovering from their fight, and maybe they will meet up with Luffy again in the future. Because those two characters were very important in the Battle of Wano, and they just received high bounties as well, so I think they will return eventually. Next is the plot regarding Garp being imprisoned by the Blackbeard pirates. This happened after Garp sacrificed himself to save Kobe and the other marines so they could flee the pirates' island safely, but Garp didn't die from his fight against Kuzan. He was instead imprisoned, so there's definitely going to come a point where the marines will try and rescue Garp from Blackbeard, especially since Garp is highly respected within the navy. Maybe Kobe and Luffy could work together to try and free him, who knows, but this plot point will be very important in the future. And on top of that, we see that Puddin has been captured by Blackbeard too, so she will also have to be rescued as well. Next is the plotline regarding Vivi and Wapol. The two of them took refuge in the World Journal airship after escaping from Urouge during the reverie. And prior to this, Vivi was captured by CP0, but then after she escaped them with Wapol in the reverie, CP0 are now searching for her. So Vivi is still going to play an important role in this story, especially since we learned that she is also part of the D clan, although she herself does not know about that just yet. We could even get a reunion with her and the Straw Hats in this final saga, which would be very cool to see because the world government are after her, and Luffy is not going to let that happen. Another plot point that absolutely needs to be solved is Luffy seeing Shanks again. The last time the two of them saw each other face to face was back in chapter 1 of the manga, and to this day, Luffy still hasn't seen him again. Luffy promised that he would return his Straw Hat to Shanks once he has become a great pirate, so it won't be long before the two of them will eventually meet up again. And Oda did say that Shanks was one of the most important characters in the series, so Luffy seeing Shanks again is going to be something to look forward to in the future. And also, because Yasopp is on the same crew as Shanks, it also means that Usopp will be able to meet his father as well, because Usopp doesn't really have any memories of his father since he left his village to become a pirate. So Usopp meeting his father after so many years will be very important for his character. The next plotline that needs to be solved is the conflict between Luffy and Blackbeard. I have a video talking about why I think that Blackbeard is the true final villain of One Piece, and I was pretty much talking about why Luffy vs Blackbeard is going to be one of, if not the biggest fight in One Piece. Just from how well Blackbeard has been built up as a villain, starting from a nobody all the way to being one of the most infamous pirates to have ever lived. And the fact that he was the one who was responsible for the execution of Luffy's brother Ace, and also that short fight that they had in Impel Down, which was pretty much a teaser to the final battle at the end of the series. This fight needs to happen if Luffy wants to become the king of the pirates. Now this next unsolved plotline is a massive one, and that is the world government finally being overthrown and taken down. We know that there is going to be another war arc that will put the pirates, the world government, and maybe the revolutionaries in a massive war that would make the war at Marineford look small in comparison. It was built up since Marineford, when Whitebeard was talking about how the world government feared the great war that will come to this world one day. This war is where we might get to see the Straw Hat Grand Fleet finally take action against the world government, because they have been set up since Dressrosa. And so many battles and conclusions are going to happen in this final war. You have the 3 admirals that need to be taken down. You also have Akainu, who is currently the fleet admiral of the navy, and Akainu was the one who killed Ace, so either Luffy or Sabo will have to avenge Ace's death. There is also CP0, and we have seen that CP9 agents from Endy's lobby have all been promoted to join CP0, so they will have to play a part in this war. There is also the 5 elders who still need to be taken down, including Figal and Garling, who recently joined them, and even the Holy Knights need to be defeated too. Now currently in Elbaf, the Straw Hats are facing off against most of the Holy Knights, and they may get defeated by the end, but Shamrock still needs to be taken down too, because we only saw a glimpse of what he could do when he arrived in Elbaf. It's possible that we might even have a fight between Shanks and Shamrock in this war, especially since there is more story to be told between them both. And then we also have Emu, who obviously needs to be taken down before the end of the series. Remember that we still haven't seen Emu's true form, because that was only shown as a silhouette when Sabo entered Urouge, so we still haven't seen all of Emu's powers and abilities. And all of the celestial dragons need to be stripped of their power, leading to the slaves gaining their freedom, and the corrupt nature of the world government will finally be taken out. And maybe by the end, Kobe will become the new fleet admiral, since it was his dream since the beginning to become a navy admiral. The next unsolved plotline is another huge one, and that is the reveal of the Void Sentry. This plotline is one of the longest running plotlines in the entire series. The Void Sentry has been shrouded in so much mystery, and as the series goes on, we constantly get more and more clues about what really happened during those 100 years. The Poneglyphs, Joy Boy, the Will of D, and the ancient weapons are all connected to this 100-year Void Sentry. And in order to get all of these questions answered, and all of the mysteries solved, we need to get that Void Sentry flashback. One Piece never disappoints when it comes to flashbacks, especially the ones that answer our questions on certain topics, and the ones that really expand on the lore, like the God Valley incident, the Odin flashback, and the Nolan flashback for example. And seen from how much clues and just how integral the Void Sentry is, this could be the longest flashback in all of One Piece. The longest flashback is currently the God Valley incident, and that was only built up quite recently from Wano, as compared to the Void Sentry, which has been built up for hundreds and hundreds of chapters since Alabasta. And there is a lot of things that will need to be addressed in this reveal. The story of Joy Boy and what he actually looks like, Zunisha and the crime that he committed, Emmet the Iron Giant, Kozuki Toki because she was born during the Void Sentry, the ancient weapons, the promise that Joy Boy couldn't keep with the Mermaid Princess, the giant straw hat found in the frozen chamber, the sea levels rising, the war between the 20 kingdoms and the ancient kingdom, Nefertari D. Lily, and Emu all need to be addressed in this flashback, and it simply cannot be a short one due to all of that has been built up. And then finally, the most obvious plotline that needs to be solved before One Piece ends is Luffy reaching Raftel, finding the One Piece, and becoming the Pirate King. This is the entire premise of One Piece. Luffy setting out to sea to find the One Piece treasure and becoming the king of the pirates. And this will happen once all of the other unsolved plotlines have been sorted. This will signal the end of Luffy's journey with the Straw Hats and concluding the grand story of One Piece. And that is pretty much every plotline in One Piece that needs to be solved before it ends. And there is still a lot to get through before One Piece actually ends. So I guess One Piece really isn't long enough. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.